What if the person Kimmy trusted more than anyone was living a life she never imagined? Because at 46 years old, Maurice is now being linked to a woman most fans didn't even know existed. And the details surrounding this alleged secret relationship have completely stunned viewers. But here's the real surprise. Kimmy didn't fall apart. Instead, she made a move so calculated that it may have flipped the entire situation in her favor. The timing, the behavior shifts, and her response are raising serious questions. And once you understand how all of this came to light, it becomes clear why this marriage may never look the same again. Before jumping to conclusions, it's important to slow down and look at what's actually being alleged. This situation goes much deeper than a simple rumor. Maurice and Kimmy have long been seen as one of the strongest couples in the love and marriage universe. They've faced health struggles, public pressure, and non-stop scrutiny, yet always presented a united front. That's exactly why these claims are hitting as hard as they are now. Recently, quiet whispers began circulating that Maurice may have been involved with another woman, someone described not as a brief encounter, but as a long-term presence. What turned those whispers into serious conversation wasn't just the allegation itself, it was Kimmy's reaction. Instead of denial, chaos, or public confrontation, Kimmy reportedly made a decisive move that caught everyone off guard and instantly shifted the power dynamic. In this breakdown, we're walking through everything step by step, where these rumors started, what evidence supporters are pointing to, and how timelines, behavior changes, and outside chatter are fueling speculation. We'll also look closely at Kimmy's response and why many fans believe it wasn't emotional at all, it was strategic. By the end, you'll understand what's being claimed, what's actually been shown, and why this moment could mark a permanent turning point in their relationship. Long before the words "secret girlfriend" began trending, fans noticed subtle changes that didn't quite add up. At the time, many brushed it off as stress, health issues, or the natural strain of a public marriage. But looking back now, viewers believe the warning signs were always there. One of the earliest red flags fans point to was Maurice's shift in availability. Kimmy appeared to be handling major life decisions on her own, while Maurice seemed emotionally distant or unusually guarded. Conversations that once felt open became short and vague. Instead of reassurance, viewers noticed deflection. Then came the schedule inconsistencies. Maurice was often unavailable, tied up with obligations that were never clearly explained. On their own, these moments meant nothing, but when they lined up with times Kimmy appeared especially drained or uneasy, fans began connecting dots. Some scenes even showed Kimmy asking questions that never received real answers, followed by awkward pauses production didn't explore further. Social media added another layer. Maurice's online presence shifted. Fewer appearances with Kimmy, more solo posts, and longer gaps between interactions. At the same time, Kimmy's posts became more reflective and guarded. Quotes about strength, clarity, and self-respect started appearing, and viewers took notice. Things escalated when outside chatter began matching what fans were already sensing. Bloggers and fan pages claimed Maurice had been spotted in places that didn't align with what was publicly stated. Nothing was confirmed, but the consistency raised eyebrows. Kimmy didn't address the rumors directly, and her silence spoke volumes. Fans who know her personality believe that if nothing was happening, she would have shut it down quickly. Instead, she stayed calm and observant. According to those close to the situation, Kimmy wasn't ignoring the signs. She was watching, gathering information, waiting for confirmation. And sources claim the moment everything clicked involved a detail so specific it couldn't be explained away as coincidence. Something involving timing, location, and a person who wasn't supposed to exist in Maurice's world at all. When that realization hit, Kimmy didn't react emotionally, she reacted with precision. Fans argue these rumors didn't come from random speculation, but from patterns repeating themselves. The woman at the center of the claims is described as someone Maurice allegedly maintained an ongoing connection with, not a brief interaction. Supporters point to overlapping timelines, days Maurice was said to be unavailable lining up with posts from an unidentified woman in the same cities or venues. Behavior shifts only fueled suspicion further. Maurice allegedly became more guarded with his phone, more defensive when questioned, even casually. Simple follow-up questions from Kimmy were sometimes met with irritation instead of clarity, a stark contrast from their earlier dynamic. What truly intensified speculation was the claim that this woman appeared to know personal details about Maurice, preferences and habits that weren't public. Fans argue that level of familiarity comes from time, not coincidence. Instead of confronting the situation publicly, Kimmy reportedly focused on confirmation, not explanations. That distinction matters. When the final piece fell into place, something Maurice couldn't explain away, fans say everything changed. Kimmy didn't explode. She didn't post cryptic callouts. She didn't go live. Instead, she made a move that quietly rewrote the narrative. Viewers noticed her reclaiming her space, her confidence, and her independence. Her tone changed. Her posture changed. She spoke in statements instead of questions. Boundaries, respect, and clarity became central themes, without naming names. Behind the scenes, speculation grew that Kimmy took steps to protect herself emotionally and financially. Nothing has been confirmed publicly, but fans believe she positioned herself to never be caught off guard again. And that shift removed leverage. If Maurice had something to hide, Kimmy's calm suggested she already knew the truth. Maurice's response only deepened the tension. Instead of clear denial, fans noticed guarded language, careful phrasing, and noticeable restraint. His confidence seemed replaced by caution. Body language changed, conversations felt tense, silence lingered. Social media reacted quickly. Many praised Kimmy's composure, calling her response grown and intentional. Others questioned why Maurice never offered a firm denial. In reality TV, silence often reads as strategy, and this time it spoke loudly. What happens next remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: the balance has shifted. And whatever the truth may be, this moment has already changed everything. What happens next is where the story takes an even more interesting turn. Because when one partner grows quieter and more cautious, and the other grows calmer and more assured, it usually signals that information has shifted behind the scenes. Viewers began to feel that Kimmy wasn't waiting for answers anymore. She had already reached her own conclusions. Instead of pushing for explanations, Kimmy appeared to pull inward. Her energy became more focused, more intentional. She spoke less about emotions and more about stability, clarity, and self-preservation. Fans noticed that her language subtly changed from we to I, a small shift that often reflects a much larger internal decision. Those who have followed Kimmy for years recognize this immediately. This wasn't avoidance, this was resolve. At the same time, Maurice's presence continued to feel restrained. He avoided specifics. He leaned into vague reassurances rather than addressing concerns head-on. And while some viewers interpreted that as maturity, others saw it as deflection. Because when rumors threaten the foundation of a marriage, transparency usually brings relief. In this case, the lack of it only deepened the unease. What made everything more complicated is that neither of them publicly escalated the situation. There were no explosive confrontations, no dramatic walk-offs, no emotional breakdowns, and that restraint made the tension feel heavier, not lighter. Silence, when shared between two people who once communicated openly, can feel louder than any argument. Fans began to speculate that Kimmy's move wasn't about exposing anything publicly, it was about regaining control privately. By adjusting her boundaries, her expectations, and her emotional investment, she changed the balance of the relationship without ever making an announcement. That kind of shift is powerful because it removes leverage. It sends a message without words. Observers also noted that Kimmy appeared more grounded than shaken. Instead of spiraling, she seemed steady, focused, almost as if she had already prepared herself for any outcome. That preparation is what convinced many fans that whatever she discovered, it was enough to change how she moved forward permanently. Meanwhile, Maurice's careful demeanor continued to raise eyebrows. The ease he once carried was replaced with caution. Conversations felt measured, responses felt guarded. And while none of this proves wrongdoing, patterns matter, especially on reality television, where behavior is often more revealing than dialogue. As days passed, the absence of a clear resolution kept the conversation alive. Supporters on both sides debated what the silence meant. Some argued that protecting privacy was the healthiest choice. Others felt that when trust is questioned publicly, clarity is the only thing that truly quiets speculation. And without clarity, doubt tends to grow. What's undeniable is that the dynamic between Kimmy and Maurice no longer feels the same. Something has shifted. Whether that shift leads to healing, distance, or a complete reset remains to be seen. But fans agree on one thing. This moment marks a turning point. Because once trust is questioned and power dynamics change, relationships rarely return to their previous form. Even if nothing more is ever revealed publicly, the way Kimmy now carries herself suggests she's operating with new awareness. And awareness, once gained, cannot be undone. As this story continues to unfold, viewers are watching closely, not for drama, but for truth, not for rumors, but for patterns. And while the full picture may never be shared, the changes unfolding on screen are speaking clearly to those paying attention. This isn't just about allegations anymore. It's about boundaries, self-respect, and what happens when someone chooses clarity over chaos. Whatever comes next, one thing is certain: nothing about this marriage will ever be viewed the same again. As the days passed, the lack of a clear response only deepened the speculation. In situations like this, perception becomes reality for viewers, and Maurice's decision to stay guarded created more questions than answers. Fans began to feel that if the rumors were completely false, shutting them down firmly would have been easy. Instead, the silence lingered, and every pause felt deliberate. What stood out most was how differently Kimmy carried herself during this period. She didn't appear confused or reactive, she appeared resolved. There was a noticeable shift in how she spoke, how she listened, and how she engaged in conversations. She no longer seemed to be waiting for reassurance or clarity from Maurice. Instead, she moved like someone who had already processed the truth privately and made peace with whatever it was. Viewers also noticed that Kimmy stopped over-explaining herself. Where she once might have softened her words or left space for interpretation, she now spoke with intention. Her statements felt final, grounded, and unshakable. That kind of confidence doesn't usually come from assumptions. It comes from certainty. Behind the scenes, fans speculate that Kimmy began restructuring her life in subtle ways. Nothing dramatic or public, but intentional shifts that suggested preparation rather than panic. Whether it involved finances, personal boundaries, or emotional distance, the message was clear. She was no longer operating from a place of vulnerability. She was protecting herself. Maurice, on the other hand, appeared increasingly cautious. His energy shifted from relaxed to restrained. Scenes felt heavier. Conversations carried tension. Even moments of silence between them felt loaded, as if there were words neither wanted to say on camera. The ease that once defined their dynamic seemed replaced by careful navigation. This contrast between Kimmy's calm control and Maurice's measured restraint became impossible to ignore. Fans began to interpret it as a reversal of power. Where Maurice once seemed confident and steady, Kimmy now appeared centered and unbothered. And for many viewers, that shift said more than any confession ever could. Online discussions exploded. Supporters praised Kimmy's composure, calling her response grown and intentional. Others questioned why Maurice never offered a firm denial. In reality TV, silence often reads as strategy, and this time it spoke loudly. What truly unsettled fans was the feeling that this wasn't just about a rumor anymore. It was about trust, transparency, and the realization that something fundamental may have changed in their marriage.
Even if the full truth never becomes public, the dynamic viewers are witnessing suggests that lines were crossed and clarity was reached privately. And that's what makes this moment so powerful. There was no explosive confrontation, no dramatic confession, no emotional breakdown, and that restraint made the tension feel heavier, not lighter. Silence, when shared between two people who once communicated openly, can feel louder than any argument. As this story continues to unfold, viewers are watching closely, not for drama, but for truth, not for rumors, but for patterns. And while the full picture may never be shared, the changes unfolding on screen are speaking clearly to those paying attention. This isn't just about allegations anymore. It's about boundaries, self-respect, and what happens when someone chooses clarity over chaos. Whatever comes next, one thing is certain: nothing about this marriage will ever be viewed the same again.